Warning, this content may be disturbing to some audiences. Subscribe. If you dare.
When he shows up at your job unannounced and you barely know him. Hey everybody, welcome to AskReddit. People ask Reddit. Ladies, what is your he is probably crazy red flag?
Number 1.
Commenter. When he claims to have PTSD from Afghanistan, has nightmares so really chokes you in his sleep, is violently racist towards anyone vaguely Middle Eastern looking, yet it turns out he never made it past week 2 of basic training. I feel sorry for my sister-in-law. Person B. This is similar to my red flag. When he chokes you when he's awake. Then, while picking up the scattered items that spilled out of your purse that he threw across the room, asks if he can eat the candy he found. On this particular night, I was also bitten. Hard. By a man. An adult, mid-20s man. It shames me to type this out, much less say it out loud. What the F was I thinking?
Number 2.
Commenter. Met a guy on an online dating website. Had a few phone calls with him and things seemed good. Then he tells me he had a favorite pair of pants when he was in high school. He wore them every day, until they became too ragged to wear. Then he started wearing them under his normal pants. Every day, still wearing them 10 years later, under his pants. I noped the F out of there. Person B. I dated a guy who unbeknownst to me was doing this because he felt there was some kind of mojo in those old pants. I found out after that flirtation ended, and trust me when I say, no mojo worth being so superstitious about there. Just extreme arrogance. He also says every woman he's ever dated was crazy, myself included of course. Long story short, I ended things with him because he told a lot of people in my small town, I recently moved there. He's a townie, that I was trying to become him. Also because he was crashing at my place while being emphatically obsessed with another woman.
Number 3.
Spoke to him once on the phone. He was at a mutual friend's house on holiday. I said hi, how are you? He made a high-pitched giggle and handed the phone back to my friend. She gave him my address, she and I exchanged packages in the mail. She was in Germany, I'm in Australia, and he started sending me letters and little gifts. I start getting calls from customs because he's apparently sending me jewelry without paying the right amount of tax on it. I tell them to send it back. On the 1-year anniversary of our phone conversation, he sends me a floral arrangement via Interflora, that's as tall as me with 18 red and white roses, white for my youth and purity, PFFD. Red for blood and 18 because that was my age, he was a lot older. This is when I got the police involved. He continued to send me messages, that he loved me, forgave me for involving police, that he didn't mind that I had a boyfriend, who I was with before I even knew this nutter existed, because my BF would understand that he and I were meant to be together, we were meant to be because we had the same blood type. He followed my favorite band around Europe, getting his photos taken with them in a t-shirt bearing my name along with their song lyrics. He said he knew where I lived and that he was coming to steal me away. Customs called me after intercepting more packages from him, they contained blood. The police blocked him from entry to the country and I didn't think any more about it until about a year later. I was watching Border Patrol and saw him arriving at Sydney Airport and being detained by police before being deported. My heart froze.
Number 4.
Commenter. Making fun of and laughing at a very sweet mentally retarded man who approached me at our cafe table to tell me he thought I was beautiful. Yeah, there was no chance there was going to be a second date. I made a point of saying to him that A, he was an asshole for making jokes and comments at that man's expense, and that B, getting a compliment like that from someone who is mentally challenged is a million times more genuine than hearing it from someone else because they are completely honest in what they say. I also happen to have an aunt with Down syndrome, which I also pointed out for him, so he did not do himself any favors by making those comments. He tried playing it off later like I know, right? People who make fun of them are so mean, I was making fun of them, not that guy. That guy seemed cool. Wow, guy. Just wow. Person B. I had a guy hit on me at a party and attempt to make conversation. About 5 minutes in he decided to make fun of little people. I was there with my friend, who is a little person. Like later dude. Also I get that it's a common term that if someone throws around the word retarded as an insult after learning that I work in special education and consider it a slur, it's a red flag for me. Not that they're a bad person necessarily, but that they don't listen and probably have a very different outlook from mine.
Number 5.
Commenter. He still lives with my parents 10 years after I divorced him. For all I know he is a Redditor, and clearly I must still interact with him, so I'll try to keep this vague. We both were unemployed at the same time and desperate. My father is away on business trips for about 50% of the year. My mother was happy to help get us on our feet, and she has the added bonus of having someone around the house for company and security. I got a job, X got a job. I started really not liking living with my parents, but I think he liked my family. I think he had a rough childhood and my family was more of the plastic smiles glued to your faces at Thanksgiving kind of family. I think he was very comfortable there, so when I started looking for apartments, with the rental market being so rough, all he had to do was delay signing a paper for a day or two and bam, apartment gone. My parents love my ex. He's a nice and charming guy. I wouldn't have married him otherwise. I think my mom let him stay because she felt bad that I divorced him. I think she also likes the security of having a man about the place. I've since remarried and had a child. Let's just say family holidays are awkward. Person B. I can relate. My ex-husband moved in with my mother as a roommate after we divorced. Lived with her for a couple of years. Talk about awkwardness. Family gatherings, holidays. He was always just there. Funny thing was, my mom was against the divorce and couldn't understand why I left him to begin with. After he lived with her for a while, she totally got it. She ended up kicking his lazy ass out of her house too.
Number 6.
Commenter. Comparing me to his mother constantly. Definitely going to be some weird ass neurosis down the road that nobody's got time for. Person B. I dated a guy like this once. Actually, I broke up with him because his mom saw something a friend posted on my FB wall and flipped her shit because she assumed that I was referring to her. He told me that if I didn't apologize that our relationship was over, so I said it was over. His family was so weird anyway. Ugh. Person C. I actually had a guy call me mother once. Backstory. In Scandinavia it's quite common to call someone first name mother, for example more equals mother, but one day he just dropped the first name and called me mother.
Number 7.
Commenter. I was in a horribly emotionally abusive relationship for years, and if I could sum it all up into one red flag it would be, if everybody else thinks he's a effing asshole, maybe it's not that they just don't know him like you do, maybe it's because he's a effing asshole. Person B. The red flag for me was when even his parents thought he was an asshole. You have to be a special kind of ass that even your own parents don't like you.
Number 8.
Commenter. When he shows up at your job unannounced and you barely know him. Person B. There is a security guard who works at the mall I used to work at. He used to talk to me and ask about boyfriends etc. while I was walking around the mall on break. Then he started walking in front of my store multiple times a day, then he started coming in my store every time I worked and made up excuses to be there and talk to me. It was so uncomfortable, my boss had to tell him to stop because it was freaking out customers. Person C. This happened to me when I worked at a juice bar in the city. We had met out a few times and he rocked up holding a gigantic teddy bear in front of the bar grinning. My coworkers never let me live it down. Person D. A couple years ago I had a guy from OkCupid show up at my work unannounced. We had never met or even so much as spoken before. He had just somehow figured out where I worked from my profile and decided to take a cue from a rom-com and make a big romantic gesture to win my affections. Yeah, didn't quite work. I wasn't even there when he showed up, but my boss was good at sniffing out creeps and he kicked him out of the store. He's lucky he didn't get the cops called on him. Person E. I went on one date with a guy and told him when I was done with work the next day, I'd stop by his house to pick him up for another date. He didn't have a vehicle. He knew I worked 8 to 5 and showed up at 8:30. He waited in the lobby for 8.5 hours. I was not amused. Took him to his house and told him I wasn't interested. He said I was just a means of conveyance to him anyway. Person F. Oh. I had a guy do this after a week of dating. I went outside to greet him, and prevent him from making it in the door, and he criticized my clothing choice. I was wearing a camisole with a cardigan over it. The cardigan was buttoned up to the level of mid-boob. I have very large boobs and a very small frame, so they are clearly noticeable, but I always tastefully dress for work to accommodate that problem. He didn't feel this was the case. He said that I shouldn't dress like I'm hanging off a pole. I have a college degree and a good job. And then he proceeded to button my cardigan all the way up. Yeah. Person G. I had been on a few dates with this one guy years ago. He asked me out for a 4th date, and I declined because I had to work a closing bartending shift. I got out of work at like 3 a.m. and saw a sticky note on my windshield. He Googled the address of my work, came by and stuck a sticky note that said "miss you" and left. I was freaked out. That is not cute. Person H. I had this happen to me. A guy I'd only gone out with once and didn't know very well. I asked him not to come visit me at work, mostly because social visits could get me in trouble with my manager, but also because I usually look like crap whilst there. Not what you want early in a relationship. He shows up anyway, but I catch sight of him before he sees me, so I run to the back and ask my manager to get rid of him. Luckily for me, she was cool about it and did. Needless to say, I didn't go out with him again.
Number 9.
I was once dating a guy who was a bit shy and very sweet, but lacked self-confidence. After 4 very fun dates, he suddenly became distant, seemed down, and we stopped dating. Cut to 7 weeks later, I'm dating some other guy. After 3 dates, he suddenly asks, out of nowhere, "How does it feel that I won you over?" Confused, I asked what he meant. He explained he took down, as he called it, the guy I was dating earlier by feeding him lies about me just dating him out of pity, so that his self-confidence would be crushed and he would stop dating me. He said this as if he was proud of it and I should be impressed. He then claimed to have the right for his first time as a reward. No first times were had that evening. Make sure to share your personal story in the comments below and have the opportunity to be featured in a future video. Also, if you like these topics, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button to continue seeing more content like this every day. See you next time.